pledge.
Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Okay, thank you. April, please let the record show we are all present. We're going to move on to the approval of the consent agenda.
John, if I could just remove item number 3 for this, just for discussion.
Number 3. Okay. Do we want to make a motion to approve everything else or wait till the end?
You want to put that on the bottom of the agenda, John?
Yes.
I will make a motion that we approve the consent agenda with the exception of item number 3.
I'll support.
Okay, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? All right, we're going to move on to the approval of the agenda.
We'll make a motion that we approve the agenda with one modification, which is the addition of item 10H, which was item 3 from the consent agenda.
Be number 11.
Wait a second.
Yeah, 11.
Yep, because right there where it says items removed from the consent agenda, yep, that's just what I said, item number 11.
I'll support that motion.
Okay, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? All right, we're going to move on to announcements and communications. Anyone have anything they'd like to announce?
John, if I may, I wanted to recognize Chris Stone from the New Hudson Inn for his A Day for Dana celebration that he had for Dana Johnston as the fundraiser. And if any of our residents had a chance to come out to that, it was an amazing show of support for Dana Johnston. And as always, Chris took the lead on a fundraiser and did a fine job.
Yeah, it was a nice deal. Thank you. Anyone else?
I'll let everybody know we're going to have the ballots, we hope, for mailing no later than the 29th of this month. So if you are interested in getting an absentee ballot, please contact our office or submit your application and we'll make sure that you get one.
Okay.
And just one more thing. If you haven't paid your taxes yet, the taxes are due, your summer tax bill's due next Wednesday, September 14th, without penalty or interest. If you don't pay on time, it's 1% per month per month, 1% per month after that, and that actually goes to the schools. So, just to let you know.
Okay. Anyone else? Okay, seeing none, we're going to move to call to the public. This is where you can come on up and please keep it within 3 minutes and give your name and address for the record.
Good evening. My name is Ann Rimanelli, and I am a candidate for school board. My address for the record is 10167 Otter Drive, South Lyon, Michigan. I just wanted to take a moment so you could put a face to the name as elections progress. I wanted to, let you know that I am interested, if I'm elected, to continue the partnership that we've had with the township and doing the really great things we have for our schools. Secondly, I also noticed on the agenda that you were considering the school resource officer. Now, I've lived in the community, granted not the township. I'm in Green Oak Township, but we've lived here for 20 years, and I just want to thank you for stepping up for the resource officers for the schools at both the high schools and the middle schools. It's something that I, as a parent, appreciate, and again, as a potential board member, would like to continue. So, thank you for that.
Well, thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks.
Nice to meet you, too.
Thank you.
Okay.
Good evening. I'm Stephanie Youngcliffe Pierce. My address is 57740 Stoneley Drive, South Lyon, 48178. I am here tonight. I am a current school board member, also running in the election. I want to thank you all for your continued service. I know how hard it is sitting on a board and listening to public comments and doing your duty as a board member, so appreciate you all for that. I am here to also talk about the fantastic relationship that exists between Lyon Township and our schools. We cannot do what we do without the support of all of you. The resource officers have made a tremendous difference in our buildings. If you've ever been to one of our graduations, some of the biggest cheers when people are announced at the beginning of the graduation are for our resource officers. They are members of our schools and they help with early intervention. They help with allowing students to transition back into the school, and they are a phenomenal resource, and we could not do that without the support of Lyon Township. And we're very excited to hopefully have that continue at the middle schools where our students are entering a new chapter in their life, and there has been a lot of emotional upheaval that has happened over the past few years, and that has been probably our biggest challenge area in the district. And I truly believe that having those resource officers in the school will make a big difference to hopefully help behaviors and really help our staff to perform at the level that they can perform at and make our community feel safe when they are sending their students, because that's sometimes when we see a lot of acting out occur. So I truly hope that you are able to support that and look forward to the continued relationship, and thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. Okay, anyone else like to come on up? Okay, seeing none, we're going to close call to the public, and we're going to move on to reports. So our first report is from Amy at the DDA.
Good evening, everyone.
Amy.
Just a couple quick announcements. We are working on some ribbon cutting events that will be taking place very soon, with the first coming up tomorrow evening between 5 and 7. The Crossings is holding their ribbon cutting. We're going to actually do the ribbon cutting at 6 o'clock, but the event goes from 5 to 7, so everybody has been invited to come out and see their facility. We also have an opening coming up for Clean Juice on Monday, September 12th at 9 a.m. And we've got coming up with Exotic Automation Thursday, September 22nd at noon. You're going to see a couple from the industrial district that'll be coming up in the next couple of months that have been postponed since COVID, so we're going to be taking place to make sure they don't get missed. Again, we also have a workshop that the DDA board is going to be taking part in on September 13th, which is next week on Tuesday night at 5 p.m. We're going to be discussing a project priority list for our TIF agreement update. So if anybody has any input that they'd like to share, please feel free to join us or send any comments to me directly. But again, we're just going to be creating a priority list for projects that we're going to include in our TIF agreement update proposal. We have a few events that are coming up from the promotions arm. We've got History on the Grand program that's going to take place October 14th from 6 to 9 p.m. We've got Scarecrows on the Grand that's going to take place from October 14th through the 31st. All the scarecrows are going to be placed at Inspiration Park so families can come on board and actually walk through the scarecrows to see them, so it's more of a family-friendly event. And we have Goodies on the Grand trunk or treating program that's going to take place on Saturday, October 29th from 4:30 to 6:30, and it's going to be followed with a movie in the park from 6:30 to 8:30. That's going to also take place at Inspiration Park. You can find out details on all of those events, or if you're a community organization or business that wants to get involved, you can sign up through our new website for the promotions arm, which is funonthegrand.com. So that's updated. And then lastly, I'm going to be sharing a short 2-minute video with you tonight that's just a wrap-up of our Music on the Grand Summer Concert Series that we had this year. We had approximately 800 to 1,000 people that attended the series over the summer. We had 6 bands, 5 food trucks, and 15 community groups participate. We had about 10 presenting sponsors and 9 additional sponsors that were involved. I want to personally thank everybody on the board that attended one of these events and everybody in the audience if you were out. We appreciate you coming out and look forward to hosting again next summer. So I'll let Brian take over, and he's going to run this short video for you. Again, I just wanted to say a quick thank you to everybody for the support for that program this year. We had a great time and are looking forward to next summer.
Well, I want to say one thing, Amy. We have to give a rise to the team that put this together. You know, this was a first-year project. The township has been wanting to put together some nice things for its residents for a while, and they finally figured out how to put it together. And for the first year, I mean, the people that come out and the volunteers we had was absolutely amazing. And it's really great to be part of a township and somebody that in the DDA like you, Amy, that's directing the DDA in the right direction. And I just want to say thank you for all you've done. I'm pretty proud of you. And we also have to say this is Amy's first year here. So she's really put a lot together, and we're really proud of her, and we're really proud of the DDA, and thank you for the fun things. And we're looking forward to all the fun things coming up.
Absolutely.
Lighting
The
up
board has
grand
a
and all the
ton of
good
stuff
things.
planned, so look forward to more.
Okay, well, thank you. Thank
You're
you.
welcome.
It's all very good. All right, we're going to move on to the report of the fire. Chief? Looks like you got a lot of equipment out there. I can see my house from up there.
We'll get you up there later. Good evening, everyone. And as Supervisor Dolan just mentioned, there's our ladder 24 is outside, and the new toy for the fire department and for the community. But it's greatly appreciated, all the support that was given for that to happen from this board, and it's definitely going to benefit this community for many years to come. The other thing that I had tonight is kind of the thing that we like most to do, and that's to recognize life-saving efforts from our first responders. So tonight I wanted to introduce and bring up here two members from the Lyon Township Fire Department, and as we always do on every scene, we collaborate, we work together very strongly with our Sheriff's Department, and we want to recognize them tonight as well. You guys have seen these before, the life-saving awards that they can put on their uniforms. So when I call your name up, if you would please come up and stand behind me, I'd appreciate it. Captain John Orzek, you may remember just meeting him about a month and a half ago when he started on this job. And after 30 years with Livonia, he wasted no time in jumping into action here, just like where he left off, and made life-saving efforts. Firefighter Ross Pajak, again, a new firefighter that started this year as well. I'd also like to bring up from the Sheriff's Department, Deputy Brian Hatfield and Deputy Ryan Rathman, along with the Sheriff's Department administration and Assistant Chief Madline. If you guys could join me, I'd like to read this proclamation, or this life-saving award. So on August 22nd, 2022, at 017 or 12:17 hours, Captain Orzek and firefighter Ross Pajak were dispatched to a 7-year-old child who was choking, not breathing, and without a pulse. Upon arrival, the firefighters found Oakland County Sheriff's Deputy Ryan Rathman performing CPR on the child immediately after Brian Hatfield attempted to dislodge the object using the Heimlich maneuver. Deputies Hatfield and Rathman also applied the AED, delivering one shock to the patient. Captain Orzek and firefighter Pajak continued to perform life-saving measures for several minutes before successfully clearing the child's airway. The patient regained a pulse, began breathing, and was carried out to Huron Valley Ambulance for transport to the hospital. Without the excellent care and professionalism of these individuals, the outcome for this child could have been much different. Lyon Township Fire Department would like to recognize Captain John Orzek, firefighter Ross Pajak, Deputy Ryan Rathman, and Deputy Brian Hatfield with the department's life-saving award. This is the time to take pictures. John, Captain. That concludes my report. And, I don't know if you wanted pictures for a minute or two.
Yes, please.
Okay. If you don't mind, we'll put the four together.
You actually got a smile.
Okay. Thank you.
Great job, guys.
Well, I've said it forever, and I'll say it forevermore. We have the best there is. We really do.
Yeah. Yeah,
And
they
I
gave
know
this
they
child
take this
another
job.
chance, and you can't say nothing better. So,
Thank you, guys. Thank you all. Thank you for the great service to the township. It's very appreciated. Thank you. Okay. It's going to be a hard one to be here.
I don't think I can follow that up here. I just have a couple of announcements here. We have a couple of events coming up for the Sheriff's Office I wanted to make the members of the public aware of. We have our annual Michigan Fallen Heroes Memorial. That usually takes place at the Sheriff's Office admin at 1200 North Telegraph. What they have is a nice memorial there where they honor all of the fallen police and fire first responders from the past year there. So it's really important. We also recognize September 11th, and we honor that as well. That will take place this Sunday, September 11th at 7 p.m. 1200 North Telegraph Road, Pontiac, Michigan, 48431. This event is open to the public, so if you have nothing to do, if you're around the area, swing by. You'll see myself and the sheriff and other fellow command officers there to pay our respects. If you have any questions or you'd like to call about this detail, I have my spectacles here. Almost like the number is 248-858-5103. 248-858-5103. And next up, Friday, September 16th, we have our annual law enforcement torch run. My staff and I, we've been performing this over the years, and it's getting harder and harder to make it happen. My leg has been getting shorter and shorter, and I'm still having a hard time making it. But again, if you're around and in town, we appreciate you coming and cheering us on. We pick up the torch from South Line PD around 9:50 a.m. We pick it up at Silver Lake and Pontiac Trail. From there, we'll run up to Grand River, then we'll head up to Old Plank northbound and meet Wixom PD at Pontiac Trail on Old Plank. Again, like I said, we'd appreciate the support because we're going to need it. It's 5.6 miles.
I'm sure O'Neill will pick up a line for you.
I'll pick you up in the gator.
Yes, there were talks about us just utilizing the gator and carrying the torch. It's sad. It's going to be myself and my command staff. I'm literally trying to force people to do it. But that concludes my report, unless you have any questions.
Thank you, Lieutenant.
Okay,
Appreciate
thank you.
that. All right, moving on to Planning Commission.
Okay, we had 2 Planning Commission meetings in the month of August. The first one was August 8th, and we did hold one public hearing about the digital room special land use, which is on our agenda tonight. We had under old business, the collection bins text amendment that had been tabled. But we held the public hearing way back in November of 2019. So we agreed to move that forward. And under new business, we had a driveway aisle width text amendment, and we are scheduling a public hearing for that. And also the EV charging stations text amendment. So we're trying to get that all set up for if and when we have EV stations. And actually Carl brought that up. It was good. Brian did a good job. So that concluded that meeting. We only had one item on the August 22nd meeting, and that was the line crossing signs. Now that they have had bigger tenants and their signs have been outgrown, we approved them to add 2 more signs on each side of the main sign for the big box users or not big box, but like Zot and Watermark, and still leaving room for his extra outlots on Grand River. And that's what we concluded. We approved that.
Okay. Any questions from anyone? All right, moving on to ZBA. Lisa, anything?
We do not have an August meeting, and we do not have a September meeting.
Man, you have an easy job.
Well, it's a sad day in the ZBA.
All right, moving on to building. Dave, anything going on there?
Just maybe I'll just bore you with a few numbers. So this July we had 66 new building permits compared to 58 last year. We had and this is through July. So in the month of July we had 16 new home permits, and compared to 21 we only had 6, which was kind of a surprise. And then in the month of July, we handed out 26 new C of O's, so 26 new residents moved in that month. That's about it on that. And then I'll just give you an update on what's going on at Watermark. So the Watermark, we've been through 7 buildings now that are open, and they're renting them out. The rentals on those, so there's 4 3-bedroom units in each building. There's 16 total units in each building, and 4 3-bedroom ones, and all of the 3-bedroom ones are leased out. And so some big numbers on the rent on there. I don't know if you guys have heard, but they're pretty big numbers, but they're not scaring anybody out. So they're still on schedule for February, being done in February. So totally, so they're moving right along over there. That's about all I got for you. It is slowing down a little bit. Our new home permits are starting to slow down a little bit, but this time of year, August, September, school's starting, that always affects it some, and then I think, the interest rates going up, and I hear there's going to be another hike this month, so we'll see what happens.
Any questions for the building department? All right, we'll move on to the water. Well, we have some good news. Our softening plant is running. It's not producing soft water yet, but it's in testing phase. It's actually completed. We're actually running water through the cells, and we're going to start putting chemicals to it here in the next week, and then it's up to DEQ or Eagle to let us turn it on. But we're there. We are there. So it's good news. We could have soft water running in the township anytime.
No.
We're just,
sorry.
Go ahead.
I was going to ask you, when you say it's up to DEQ or Eagle, you mean they need test results?
The corrosion testing.
I mean, they've already held us up for like 18 months. So I would hope that, we're done with all those things.
Well, all I can say is that I have no faith in them. They've dealt with them
Are you sure
over
they
and
don't want
over
to
and
send
over.
the samples to like Antarctica to some scientist that's been living on an iceberg to see like if he agrees with the other 43 reviews that have been done? Are we good?
Yeah. I don't know what to say. I've dealt with them for 5 years now, and all 5 years has been the same thing. Sit on your hands and wait till we tell you it's okay. And we do everything they ask, and they make us sit. So it's in their hands now. We're ready to put it online. We have a little bit of tweaking with the chemicals, and once we get the chemicals tweaked in the right position, we're ready to turn the spigot on. I mean, we're there. So we actually have a September 8th meeting to talk about the operations and the manuals and how it's going to be, how the water has to flow through the cells, and it's kind of getting exciting, but when Eagle steps in, it's like the excitement goes away.
Well, I thought it was on the other day. I had to send you a text.
I know you
It
do.
was so sudsy, and my hair has never looked so good.
They had her turned
So
on.
much body and all 10 of the strands of hair on my head.
Now that's
He
funny.
said, "Are you sure it's not on?"
I wish I should have lied to you.
I was really, we were pretty excited.
And John, even when we turn it on, it's going to take a few months to
I don't know if it'll take a few months, but it will take some time.
get through
It
this.
will take some time. It has to get through the system, and it will take a little time. But we are so close. It's the closest we've ever been, believe me. And the invitation's still open to take you on a tour.
Well, that's what I want to mention.
Because I took Patty.
Oh, my gosh, you guys, you have to see this. If you, again, you won't appreciate, I didn't appreciate it till John took me to actually see the plant and how intricate it is and how amazing somebody can figure that out and build that. It's amazing, and I understand now why it took them as long as it did to build it. You'd be shocked. It's pretty amazing.
Plus, it was retrofitted to an existing building, so there was some work in that, but
Oh my God,
it's getting very close.
unbelievable. The piping,
The excitement of having the best water around is so cool. We're going to have the best water anywhere, and we'll be able to brag about it. Maybe win some contests with it. I don't know.
Clear as ice cubes.
We're going to get into it, though. Believe me, guys, this has been hard work. Guys and gals, it's been a hard job. About wore me down. Okay, any questions? All right, we're going to move on to unfinished business where we have two ordinance adoptions, second readings, and I'm going to pull a Sean on the first one. Adoption of ordinance
You're not going to read the whole, you're gonna read the whole-
822. No, I'm going to pull you what you did. I liked it.
Oh, you're just going to
Yeah.
take, okay.
And I'm going to look at
Is this the
Brian.
time when you want me to make a motion to adopt ordinance number 08-22?
I've got a small tweak to that one if you want me to say it before you do your motion.
You can include it in your motion.
Or I
It's a
can make the
friend-
motion
yeah.
and include it. if
Absolutely.
you like, okay. So I would make a motion to approve the adoption of ordinance 08-22 with the change of the insertion of or structure after the occurrences of non-conforming use in section 1303B, which is on page 5 of the red line copy.
I will support pending verification
Yes.
from Brian.
Yeah, Brian, did you get that?
Yeah, where do you want it, or structure?
It says a non-conforming use, so is a non-conforming use or structure. It says use like 3 times in there, so just adding the or structure after it to match the heading and criteria below that pertain to both uses and structions.
Well, we want to make sure you use it.
Non-conforming use or structure, right here. Does that? Glasses.
Yeah.
Yes. All right.
You good with that, Brian?
Mm-hmm. Yes.
Okay. All right. Did we have a second?
Yes, indeed.
Okay, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? All right, moving on to second reading,
I'll
the
move
adoption. Go
The
ahead.
adoption of ordinance 09-22.
Support.
All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? All right, great. We're going to move on to new business. Easement request proposed, Lion Medical Center. Brian, can you take us into that?
Yes. So before you this evening is a request, and Mr. Langen is here this evening on behalf of himself for this request. On the property directly next door to Township Hall here to the west, which is vacant currently and owned by Mr. Langen, a site plan has been conditionally approved for a medical office facility. And that plan is up on the screen with the north to the left of the page, or of the screen. As it's proposed today, the medical office building is permitted on the property, so we have no concerns there. With this proposal is a parking lot that will accommodate and meet our parking regulations for minimum parking areas, but it's an odd piece of property. And one of the things that Mr. Langen is proposing here is this parking lot will be partially on the property to the north that is owned by Republic, and it will be accessed through the existing driveway that is shared by the Sheriff's Department and Township Hall, the Western Drive, the one that's right next to where we're sitting today. With this configuration, part of the parking lot will be able to be utilized for special events for the township. That would be the northern portion. And our ordinance does allow for some shared parking, so that is something that can be accommodated through the use. But also on the eastern side of the property is an access that is technically on township property as it's proposed today. That's where my cursor is. So there's a driveway, there is some sidewalk to bring access for pedestrians to the front of the medical office building. And then there will also be some associated drain work, some culverts to get underneath the driveway and the sidewalk. So what's being proposed to you this evening is in concept allowing us to work with Mr. Langen's representatives on easement language that would allow this to occur to fulfill one of the conditions of site plan approval. So because these improvements are on township property, they need the blessing of the township board. And so that's where we sit today. Mr. Langen's here this evening. I don't know if you have anything to add. But.
Thank you. Yeah, I would if you don't mind. Also with me tonight, for Bob Langen, 128 North Center Street, Northville, 48167. Thank you, Mr. Kesey, for a fine explanation. With me tonight also is Cliff Sieber, our consulting engineer. I wanted to point out one minor wrinkle. The parking lot as proposed would be able to be fully utilized by the township for special events and overflow parking. I think the proposal is that we get to use the parking lot during office hours for our medical service providers' parking requirements, and for after hours or for special events. I think it was brought up, for example, Election Day. We would work with our tenants to make sure that that lot might be available on a election day that is likely to result in a lot of voters showing up throughout the day. Certainly weekends or after hours events, that DDA, the concerts and all the special events, contentious township board and planning commission meetings, or whatever it is, we would be offering the entire lot for use for the township. And the other just point of, let's say, order is that the site as proposed, I think we need to go to ZBA for 2 variances, and part of our reluctance to draft these easements and have them approved is that if we don't get the variances, we have to retool everything, and the exhibits and the language and everything would have to be redone. So tonight, I think specifically, we're looking for a green light in concept, and then we go to ZBA for variances, and then we come back for site plan, if everybody is in agreement with the plan.
Close. So,
Close?
So you wouldn't actually have to come back through site plan. The planning commission's already approved the site plan conditionally, but you're right in that you would have to go to the ZBA for variances after this consideration by the board. But the reason that we are not able to take him to the ZBA first is that all of the other conditions of a site plan approval have to be taken or have to be completed before he can go to the ZBA per our zoning ordinance. So this would be the last time that the township board would see this project unless you specifically requested to come back.
Okay.
Can I ask a question about traffic coming on Grand River? Now that the expressway will be shut down or is under construction for 3 years, it's really hard to get in and out of that driveway as it is.
Yeah.
So will road commission be like maybe making some more adjustments for turning in and turning out so that traffic isn't lined up, depending on what you have coming in?
As luck would have it, our engineer is here who might have something to say about it.
Is concerned
I wouldn't
about,
have a clue.
Yeah, I mean, because we don't have any extra turn lanes at all, or we've got a really funky one coming up where you have to still cut in, so I don't know if they would fix that one heading west, and then, of course, going east, if people can get around someone turning into that driveway of Township Hall and the Medical Center.
Yeah, right turn lane coming in specifically.
Yep.
Yeah, it would keep the flow of traffic moving a little better if that were in there.
This is so bad here. Yeah, and then there's nothing across, and just having the parents coming in for practice at the park at 5 o'clock, you know, if you're trying to turn out, you know, they're all coming in, so you can't really, people are lined up to get out, so I was just wondering if that you will do something like that to help that, or to ease that.
Maybe are contacting the road commission about it and possibly even looking at a traffic study to see how that traffic's moving there.
That would be great.
Something we could look into.
Because I think that's going to add a lot to it.
Well, and it being medical, there's not likely to be a big shift, right? There's patients coming in and out all day.
Right.
Right, and so I think medical service providers' office hours aren't
Well, they
quite
usually
9
go
to
till
5.
5, usually?
Well,
Most,
it depends on who actually uses it.
Right.
We just don't know who that is yet.
Right.
Yeah.
But people tend to abandon ship at 5 p.m. and then
Yeah.
everybody's trying to get into the park for practice and people trying to leave. Okay.
So just a question, there's no way to keep that on your own property?
There is. Yeah,
Oh,
there is general office.
Okay.
Yeah, for any medical use, there isn't. And we certainly played around with a curb cut on Grand River, but with the driveway to the west and the township's drive to the east, it's just really snug.
Go ahead. Anybody want to talk? Go ahead.
Brian, when did this go to the planning commission?
March or February, I believe.
Sounds about right, yeah.
I know we talked about this a couple of years ago. I guess I'm surprised that you guys got this far down the line without kind of coming back here again. I don't remember anyone having a big objection to it in, 2020. I think you just looked the date up, yeah, February of 2020.
Yeah, I think we were here right before, like, we might have been the last meeting before COVID shut the world down. And that was the meeting kind of introducing the notion and exploring the like or dislike, you know, just informally in concept, do you like this? And
Yeah, there's two issues. There's an easement across the township's property to the east to provide the driveway access.
Right.
Which, you know, I think for safety reasons, I wouldn't object to that. I mean, obviously, there would have to be a use and maintenance agreement.
Of course.
You'd build it, you'd maintain it, you'd repair it, and we could hold you to a specific standard, so that way if it fell into disrepair, we're not going to be on the hook for having to, you know, approve it. I think that just makes sense from a safety standpoint, because you do have frontage on Grand River, and you do have access. This is just providing you a safer way of accessing it, the residents a safer way of accessing it, and I think that's part of our responsibility. And I remember talking about that specifically. I didn't remember all the details of the parking lot, and I think you brought something up, Mr. Langen, that was important. I think when Brian mentioned, you know, shared use of just the part that's on township property, you added to that, it's shared use of the entire lot.
Right.
So you're building out a lot that's going to be on your property and on the township's property, and it will be for everyone to use with a specific, you're paying for it, you're going to maintain it and keep it in good repair. We'll do nothing but allow it to exist, but then also benefit from it, you know, for the park or for any municipal use that may occur in this area.
That's basically it. I mean, we're going to put a bunch of play nice with each other language in the agreements, and the use would be limited during normal business hours. The township's use of the parking lot would be limited during normal business hours, because we need it for our doctors and nurses and patients and whoever else is there, other than on special days.
When you say on special days, I mean, obviously, Michelle, you were just talking about hours and the use of the park. During the middle of the day on a weekday, the park's not terribly busy, maybe in the summertime. So in the evenings or, you know, in the summer, there'd be, or during an event, there'd be more significant use. And I think that we would want to make sure that any agreement that moved forward would recognize, you know, we just talked about different events that the township currently holds and may hold in the future, and I want to make sure that there's language in there that allows us to kind of elbow our way in if we have something going on, you know, to be able at least use the northerly portion of this, even if it is at an odd time.
Yeah, so for the most part, this is going to be easy, right? Because the events are universally on weekends, and meetings are universally in the nighttime.
Right.
And our tenants, our prospective tenants, are going to be made fully aware of the limitations of their hours of operation, right? I can't really easily have a 24-hour emergency room there, right? And so what I meant when I was referring to special events, I think the best thing to think would be election day, right? If there's a presidential election that's deeply contentious and there's likely to be millions of voters showing up everywhere in the country, well, we would make our tenants aware that that's not a good day to be around because those spots are going to get filled up.
And I guess that's where I was going. I want to make sure that when we do, on the rare occasion, have a need to use this lot, that takes some priority, because it will be infrequent, and it generally will not be in conflict. Our use of it, as you mentioned, will not be in conflict with their normal working hours, I would think.
Right.
My initial feelings are that it could work out, but the township owns a variety of properties, scattered over 32 square miles, and I don't think this is necessarily precedent setting. I think it makes a great deal of sense given the location of this to try to cooperate in some way. But I guess I just want to make sure that at least we discuss or at least touch on, I guess a concern that, your site plan cannot move ahead really without township property and access it, reasonably speaking. And I don't want to go down a road where others who are adjacent to township property are coming in expecting that we're going to let them just make use of public property for their private enterprise. Because that's just not appropriate.
Yeah.
In this case, you're building something really in a park. It's going to be used and available for use by, and I assume you're not going to be out there towing cars if, a grandma comes to walk her grandkid over the pavilion, I would think, so.
I'm not that
energetic. Right.
Well, your law firm and I could spend the rest of time talking about precedent and what is and isn't a precedent, but it's not a precedent, but I understand that people will view it that way.
I wanted to just mention it tonight because, again, we have a variety of other properties and we don't generally make a habit of going out and doing this kind of thing. This just came to us and it makes some sense, and I think there can be some public benefit from this, or else it shouldn't be considered viable.
Well, that's really the point. The primary motivator for this idea was that we all observed a mutual benefit, and I think that's the key.
Would you be willing to put in some playground equipment or something for this easement? I mean, this is a big deal for the township. This is a lot of money. I mean, we're giving away, it's making your project whole.
Right.
If the only benefit is a certain time to use a parking lot, I don't feel that that's an adequate exchange.
Really? Because we're building several, how many spots is it? 100 and some spots.
15.
But that's if we need them, and we're talking about special events, and we're talking about elections that may happen once every 4 years, and I think there could be a better exchange for the township that, more people would use. I mean, I don't know. To me, it's a big deal. It's making a real nice piece of property that's kind of somewhat unusable to you as it is. I mean...
Well, it's usable as general office, just not medical office.
And I like the medical office, don't get me wrong, but I'm just saying we need, this is taxpayers' money. This is taxpayers, we have to look out for the township. And I don't know if the exchange for a parking lot that we would use very seldom would be a good exchange, and that's just me.
Well, I mean, a counterpoint is that general office, I could put it on our site, add a curb cut to Grand River, not need any easements, and from a rent analysis, probably come somewhat close to where we'd be in the medical. We felt like a medical office was more usable now, more in demand now, and I'm certainly not saying no. I hadn't ever thought of it because our perception was that this parking was a pretty significant public benefit, and but I would certainly entertain the thought and give it some thought.
Well, and I'm not trying to play hardball with you by no means. I'm just saying that it just doesn't seem like an equal trade. I mean, I think there's things that we could do that would really benefit the township and benefit you also, right? I mean, that's just my thought. And I would like to see a little more for the easement and to make that building work for you, because I do believe that you'd rather do that.
Well, for one, John, in looking at this plan, I'm just looking at the cover sheet. The Planning Commission reviewed this site plan. We did not, and we do not in this instance. But we talk about this being used by people coming to these meetings or coming to vote here, but there's no sidewalk connection.
Well, I think there is.
There would be.
But one other thing, Sean.
That's the
though,
little squiggly.
Well, okay, the sidewalk connection, it doesn't connect to Township Hall. So you're proposing this to us as an option for people to park. And as Lisa mentions, I don't like to walk too far. I need to drop off right at the door.
Yeah.
But if I was going to park here, I got crazy one day, and I'm like, I'm going to walk 200 feet. I would have to walk in the road. So at a minimum, there would have to be a sidewalk connection, a pedestrian connection from this lot that you are proposing to be used for overflow for this parking.
But the
Yeah,
other thing,
that would be an added condition.
But the other thing,
We
Sean,
complied with the ordinance, but I think you're right.
Well, but I mean,
Yeah.
right, but you're making a point that that's how we would use it. In
Yeah.
part, we would use it to access this building, but, you know.
If I could add to Sean's comment, if you are having this exit out into the drive that goes through the park, and you're saying that people can use this for the park, to access the park, there's no sidewalk along there to get them to where there is already, like the pavilion that's right over there outside of Township Hall. Thank you. There's no safe way for you to get from this proposed parking lot to that pavilion.
But is there now?
If you park in the parking.
Well, no, I understand that, but other than the 9 people that park there, how are they getting around now?
Well, you're suggesting that the overflow parking that you would be providing would be would allow for park use as well, not just.
Yeah.
So if you are encouraging people to park in this combined project, then you're not giving them any way to get from this township parking lot to safely get to somewhere within the park.
Okay, how are they doing it now?
Well, they're not parking on the grass.
They are now.
Not there.
I've been to stuff
They're
here.
literally not parking there.
Not there, no. No, they're
So
not
if you're
parking there.
proposing a parking lot there, and it's supposed to be a benefit for our park users, you're then asking them to truck on through some grass to get to a safe anywhere.
But what are they doing now? Are there
They're not parking in the grass.
I think we're going around and around here on something that I don't understand. So when you have an overflow event currently, where do people go? And how do they get around?
the other thing too, and I wanted to add this to when you were talking, Sean, is that back when we looked at this the first time, we were in bad need of parking, right? But since then, we've expanded the township hall, and we put another 40, 50 parking spots at the hall. So we've kind of had to take care of our own thing because this kind of went away for a while, then it's come back. And again, I'm not opposed to it. I just think that we should have a little more, I think we should have a little more benefit than just a part-time parking lot. And like Lisa's saying, and Sean, we don't really have connections to get anywhere. And, I mean, it's a big deal for us. I mean, really.
And Bob, I know you're saying...
Oh, no, okay. Is that a sidewalk? Is there a sidewalk along?
No, we could propose one.
Yeah, I mean, forgetting the hypothetical where they're walking now,
Right.
I'll just make this easy and say, we'll build a sidewalk wherever you want a sidewalk.
Okay, I mean,
I mean,
I don't want to encourage residents to park in someplace that would then lead them to be walking in the
Stranded.
road and not be able to.
Yeah, that's a good point. And whatever we can do to help connectivity for pedestrians, we're all about it.
And speaking of sidewalks, there is a sidewalk along Grand River. I just want to confirm that, right? All right.
Yes.
Thank you. That's what my old eyes read on the plan. I just wanted to make sure.
Go ahead,
So,
Robert.
well, I was going to ask one more question. So there are a couple issues. One, the sidewalk that you're saying you'll put in, which is
We will
great.
put in a sidewalk.
This goes back to the planning commission, but it's not going to come here.
I'd like it to come back here.
But I think it needs to come back here because we should see the agreement. I think we can give you guys direction, but in fairness to you, Deb, and Brian, at the end of the day, you're going to want us to see the finished product and vote, not assume that you hit the nail on the head. So I think that if we're going to move ahead tonight, before we are done discussing, at least I will say for the record that I think that agreement should come back here. And I think we've probably got time. If you started in February 2020, another month won't hopefully kill your project.
Not at all. Yeah, and we have every desire to be 1,000,000% transparent, so I wouldn't oppose such a notion in the least.
And I think it's just more of buttoning it up at
Sure.
the back end of it. Yeah.
Sure. Fair enough.
Well, being it's conceptual too, I'd like to see what you're actually proposing with the sidewalks.
So from a procedure standpoint, we can't really go to the ZBA until we get direction from the township board on this one. So in the interest of, I mean, Bob mentioned it, it's going to take a lot of time, effort, and resources to prepare those easements, and there's still the unknown of whether or not the variance will get granted. Is it possible that we can get the township board to allow us to move this to the zoning board of appeals in the meantime while the agreements are being worked on?
But conditioned upon it coming back for final
Correct.
approval
Yeah.
of the site
Yeah.
plan and the easement agreements?
Well, you're not asking us to approve anything tonight, just approve the idea or the notion that this will be acceptable once it clears all the other hurdles and that we'll sign an agreement with you, right?
Well, I'm really asking for you guys to plug me in where I gotta go. I don't know the ordinance coming and going, and
Right.
I just want to know what to do next.
What I'm saying is there's not a document, there's not a resolution, there's not an agreement in front of us tonight. There's a letter from you asking for this consideration, and there's your site plan. So we're not in a position to approve anything tonight anyway. We're in a position to say to you, yeah, Bob, this sounds like it would work and be feasible with these conditions. You go off to the ZBA, you plug the conditions into the plan and come back with an agreement, and then we say, this looks good, or this needs change, or this is terrible.
If that's enough to get us to ZBA, then I mean, again, I'm not here to oppose anything. I just really need direction.
Why can't he go to he can go to the ZBA,
Yeah.
right? We got to keep Lisa busy.
Yeah. They need to have some indication, I guess, that the concept and the easement, concept of using the township property.
Well, I can say this. I can say I wouldn't be against it. I just think that we need a little more benefit to it. I think the township deserves a little more benefit for giving up the properties. I mean, the place you're putting the parking lot is probably the only virgin ground in the hill anymore, isn't it? I mean, I don't know. I don't know if that's virgin ground or that's been filled. I think it is. So we're taking a really buildable piece of property and putting on a parking lot. So, I mean, there's things, you know, I just think that it'd be nice to have a little more benefit to the township, my opinion only.
So that's kind of where I was going to go with this, because the previous time you were here, if I'm remembering the timeline right, was just prior to my joining the board, so I didn't weigh in at that time. But conceptually, I have an issue with giving up what is, as John was saying, some of the remaining prime actual usable land in the park boundaries without some hopefully park-related benefit. So I guess I have, to separate the pieces of this out, I have no issue with the driveway easement, for example, of, you know, that's an improvement to road safety for everybody else having one less curb cut. But the additional parking spaces, yeah, I like the idea of some, you know, maybe, you know, something towards a new play structure or, you know, something like that to kind of balance out we're losing park land, but we're getting some feature for the park as a result, or some sort of an agreement like that. Because, I mean, it is fairly significant. I didn't count out all the spaces to figure it out, but just visually, it looks like about a third of your parking lot would be unbuildable without that. And I don't know what that does to, you were saying that would take you down to a general office use because of, is it just different parking requirement densities for the two use types?
Correct, yeah.
Like a third.
It's about a third.
Yeah.
Okay, well, that would visually match then with...
Well, no, 1/3 of the parking is all we need for general office.
Oh, really? So you could even have
a bigger
smaller
office building.
parking lot or a bigger building
Right.
without using if you had a different use?
That's correct.
Okay. Yeah, that's, like I said, just, you know, if we're building a parking lot on park property, I'd like some park benefit as well for it.
Okay.
John, I have another question. It does have have to do with the sheet on the fire route. And I just want to make sure that everyone knows my husband is on the fire department. The last meeting, I didn't mention that and ask a fire department question. I was chastised. The fire department route, or the fire truck route, I'm confused by it being from internally within the park as opposed to the route coming from Grand River. Can
Are you
it,
questioning whether it can loop?
I'm questioning, can it make the turn from Grand River into that drive? Like, can it make this turn? Because I don't know why the route would be showing it coming from inside the park. I was confused by that.
Yeah, like the turning template just doesn't come in from the south, it only comes in from the north. So that's your question.
Yes.
Yeah.
I mean, it looks pretty open.
It's because that's the tighter turn.
I just wanted to make sure that
Yeah,
again.
it would make the turn either way.
Okay.
Yeah. In
was
fact,
just
it's even easier to make the turn coming from Grand River because you're on the right side and you're making a big turn left
Right.
coming into the site, so. Yeah.
just
In
didn't
fact, I
know-
thought we had one.
I didn't know why it showed
Showing that.
coming in that way and not the other way, and I thought, well, please tell me that it can come in from Grand River. And then the other question.
Definitely can.
All right, and then the other question I had is, it shows the custom 47-foot truck. Does that meet our requirement for the township-owned ladder truck, or does that meet the requirement for the South Lion ladder truck?
I believe it
wouldn't
meets,
have
I'm not sure if it meets a ladder, what specific truck was used in that analysis.
Do we need,
But it's a,
Specified minimums. We've always used South Line for it out of our own, but
right,
yeah, I'm not concerned about that.
okay, I just didn't know which, if it mattered, because I didn't.
Maybe we'll update it now when we say our own.
Chief, can the ladder just reach to there from the station?
In Highcliff, I didn't get a chance to say hello, and we've been looking at each other, just wanted to properly say hello and greet you. How you doing?
Well, thank you, yeah, that was the question I had for the fire.
Sorry, Lisa's circulation thing made me think of one other item here. Currently, we have, for when the park is closed, we have a gate on our main access point, so we would probably need to put one of those on the north end of your parking lot as well, potentially.
Yeah, because we close the park.
So
That's
we
understandable.
don't plow that road during the winter. So.
Oh, yeah, you wouldn't want people using our lot to access the park during the winter. Where's your gate? Yeah, so would we be shutting down that
It's just
secondary?
north of the drive into
Right out
this
that window.
building. But
Well, then our tenants couldn't use it either during the winter.
you'd think you'd still want secondary access.
I mean, does it, if it
Emergency
causes a
vehicle.
problem with circulation, I mean, it would be more gates, and I guess we'd want you to pay for that, but in theory, we could move the existing gates, remove that, add a gate at the other 2 points of the intersection and to the west of your north entrance if you wanted looped access.
Well, I think fire would have something to say about that.
Yeah, just something to look at.
Secondary access
Yep.
in case of an emergency, I would imagine.
Well, we could just put a Knox box or a Knox key on it. Right? Chief? Yeah.
This is the first time seeing it, so.
That's something we can figure out by the time. we
Yeah,
get
that's
to
an
planning
easy,
commission.
that's something we can.
Smarter
figure out
people than me
next
can
week. But it's
answer
a
these
good
questions.
Good thing to bring up for sure.
So do we need like some sort of a vote here to let them go to ZBA or?
Well, I want to talk, Chris, I haven't heard from you yet. You got anything to
No,
add?
I mean, you guys kind of covered pretty much everything I was going to say. I think
Okay.
the only thing that kind of just jumped in my head is if the easement agreement is for maintenance and use of the parking lot, do we need something similar with the sidewalk in terms of maybe maintenance? I don't know. That's just,
Yeah, I believe we do, and stormwater and there's quite a, we started making a list and there's 7 or 8 easements and became very evident that without ZBA grant of the variances, we were spending quite a bit of time and money for what might be nothing. So we felt we'd get a better sense of direction first.
Well, I think that you could do that, right? He can just go to the ZBA and, I mean, I think you've got kind of everybody on board as long as we come up with maybe some extra things that would help the residents. What that is, I mean, I guess we'd have...
Yeah, I'm a little flat-footed, but I'll think it through and come up with something.
I'd appreciate that. But does anybody have would you be opposed to what he's doing? I think that's what he's looking for. Would anyone here be absolutely opposed to this if the benefits worked out? Anyone?
No, I think it's a great idea. I've seen it many times at the Planning Commission. And I think it's just what Sean and everybody else echoed was it would be a smart idea not to add another curb cut. And I think with that we would benefit only because I work the Kite Fest parking every year for the Kite Fest, and we certainly could use that parking on those couple days. People tend to really enjoy the Kite Fest, and that additional parking would do great things. And Michelle can contest that, or she'll tell you that during that presidential election, they were parked up and down the sides here. You couldn't see people walking out from their cars to get to the hall. It was pretty crazy election time. And so on those days would be really important to the clerk's office for that. Not so much for taxes.
Nobody stands in line on the last
Even
day.
though they have to give all the money. But no, I think it's a good idea, and John makes a good point about, and Robert, that it is our, they're right, it is our last maybe good piece of ground for the park, and maybe you could be creative and put something extra in that little playground up there, because the kids are there all the time. They love it.
Yeah.
It could be something small, but appreciative.
We'll give it some thought.
Okay. We could probably give you about, what, a 1-year lease on that?
Sure.
Renew it every year? Negotiate every year.
Yeah, that was one thing that Mrs. Rosati and I discussed very early on. She wanted to be a revocable easement. I'm like, well, we're done here if that's the case. But anyway.
Well, I think everybody's on board.
Yeah.
Just think about it a little bit, and I think everybody here would like to see it again, right? We'd like to see it again.
So Brian, where does that put us as far as the ordinance goes?
So just the discussion here tonight, the no opposition, I think gives us enough assurance that the Township Board has viewed this and has no issues, and thus completed really the Planning Commission's condition that it needs to come back to the Township Board. So we can get you moving on the next agenda for ZBA.
Okay.
You have to fill out that application with Catherine if you haven't already.
I have, but it's got a little dusty.
Okay.
So we'll see if we can do that again.
Resubmit it and take care of that with Catherine, and then October is the next agenda that we can get on.
I'll see you October then.
Excellent. We'll give you an agenda.
And then, can we make sure that we do have an attorney? Because sometimes we don't really have anybody, an attorney at the ZBA, just because this, I think, adds a little bit more.
Yeah, that's a good point.
Because most of the time, we don't really have something that is not following our normal procedure. So I think that would be really helpful for us.
That's a good point.
Okay. Are you good?
I think so. As long as
Direction?
we're moving forward, then I'm good.
Okay.
Thanks for your consideration, all of you, and your thoughts.
Thank you.
We'll see
Thanks
you
so much.
maybe 2 months.
Okay.
All right, thanks.
I'll see you
Good
in
luck.
October.
And you in October.
All right, we're going to move on to the digital room special land use, AP 22-44. Brian?
Thank you, John. Several months ago, you reviewed a tenant in the spec building that is being constructed on Grand River Drive, or on Grand River Avenue. This is just north of Amazon's parking lot facility, but this is part of Bill Clark's and Gene Zamler's developments that are being constructed. So if you recall, the large 108,000 square foot building is being constructed on the west side of this private drive. There's a smaller building proposed on the east side of the drive, but you've already approved a flooring distribution center in the southern portion of this building. The proposal this evening is to occupy the northern portion of the building. And the tenant before you is Digital Room LLC. They are in the business of printing, publishing, various printed materials. The reason that this is coming to the Township Board this evening is this property, or a portion of it, is in the Wellhead Protection Overlay District. And so not only did the building originally come before you for special land use, but any tenants that are going into the building now or in the future will come before the Township Board for special land use review. The Planning Commission has already held the public hearing for this project, or for this tenant in the building, on August 8th. They received no public comments at that time. They also had no issues with the materials that were being used, the processes that are going to be occurring, any of the traffic patterns that are going to be a result of this tenant. Ultimately, the Planning Commission had no concerns with the use and have recommended approval of the special land use. You'll find in our letter dated August 31st that we concur with the Planning Commission. We really don't have any concerns with this tenant at all. All of the inks, all of the processes that are going to be occurring in this building do not have any flags for the DEQ checklist. Their industrial activity statement is of no concern. Let's see, the applicant stated during that public hearing that they'll be using raw PVC vinyl and corrugated plastic with the requisite ink for the digital printers. So none of the materials that are part of this use are on the regulated substances list from Eagle. And so from that perspective, infiltration into the ground is not a concern. There are no floor drains in the new building that would cause us an issue in terms of infiltration into the aquifer, as far as we can tell. So based on those standards, the discussion that the Planning Commission had, and everything that we can cite in the ordinance, we would recommend approval of this special land use to the Township Board. The applicant is here this evening if you have any specific questions about the operation. But I think that's all I have for you.
Okay, thank you, Brian. Anybody have any questions for Brian?
Wish they were all this easy.
Yep. Anybody want to make a motion?
Given the recommendation of the Planning Commission after a public hearing and given the report of McKenna and Associates dated August 31st, 2022, I will make a motion that we approve AP 22-44.
I'll support.
All right, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay. Moving on to consideration of assignment and use of school resource officers for South Lyon Middle School. And this is a good one here. Got some good news, I think.
Hello again, folks.
How you doing?
I have Deputy Superintendent Brian Talk with me to represent the school board. We've heard some people attest to how important it is to have SROs in the schools, and we think so. We agree with that. We've gone through several different versions of this, but we've arrived at one that finally works for us. Again, the deputy is going to spend time at Centennial and Millennium School daily, so she's going to split her time, half and half each day, at a cost of 100% paid by the school board while the deputy's in school. We're asking that the township cover the $34,000, $35,000 for the deputy's wages while they're out of school. Again, I believe it's important. It's important for the kids, it's important for the teachers, and it's important for the community to ensure that they're safe. And I mean, it's fun for us. So with that being said, if anyone has any questions, we're prepared to answer them as best we can.
Okay. Well, for one thing, this board has been always behind the SRO program, and no matter what, we always step up to the plate for this, and I don't think this is going to be any different. And as long as we can afford to, and this is me, I'm not talking for the board, but as long as we can afford to do it, we're proud to have the Oakland County Sheriff SRO the schools. And one of the things that I think is really important is not having different police departments in the different schools. You know, the nice thing about having a one police department service is they're all connected. When the call goes out, they know immediately, and they know where to go. There's no repeaters going to a different department. And I think that's super important. And I also know the Oakland County Sheriff is very well equipped to do many things that other departments can't do. So I'm very proud to support this program, and I always will be as long as I'm here.
I think that was really well said. The only thing I'll say, and I say it every single time because we have this conversation every single year, we continue to be the only community that participates financially in this. So we send our deputies in there. There's obviously, even if the school district pays for 100% of the year, there's still a $35,000 cost to the township for the time that school's not in session. I couldn't be any more supportive of the program and committing to this expense. It's just a little disappointing that the communities that also are members of the district and send children by the thousands to our schools do not share the same view and do not support in the same way this program the way this township does. Not one of them. So,
well, you should keep your head high for that.
Absolutely. It just needs to be said because our taxpayers in this township are bearing the brunt of the cost of this. So I think it deserves, on their behalf, they deserve to hear somebody sitting here say that.
Well, when it comes to children, there's invisible lines as far as I'm concerned. There's no lines that I wouldn't put money towards to protect. I don't care where they're from. So that's my opinion. All right.
Brief comment, just this is basically exactly the kind of agreement I was looking to see before. So I guess I would just thank the school district for looking at things and finding the resources to fully cover the school year portion of it. And like Sean said, I'd love to continue to try and work with the other communities, but for now I think this is great and it's good to see the program continue and grow.
Okay, anyone else?
I guess I don't really have much to add to what everybody else has said, but like Sean said, the only criticism I hear is that, yes, the township is the only community that steps up, which, you know, is fine because I'm in the same mindset as John, that, you know, we have the ability to provide the funding for it, so we're going to continue to do it. So I guess with that in mind, you can make a motion to approve the agreement for the school resource officer at the South Lyon Middle Schools for $34,274.64.
I'll support.
All right, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Thank you.
I did want to say one thing, though.
Please, go ahead.
You didn't let me have a chance.
Sorry.
I could have asked you to
I
speak.
always
You can interrupt.
The only thing that could make this even better is if they took our little new dog with our police resource officer. She could bring that dog to the school with her. Because this is a big deal to us. We're getting this dog. We asked the sheriff specifically. We are getting a dog.
I think we're meeting about that on Thursday.
Well, the treasurer would be very happy about that, since the Treasurers Association funded a dog. We all chipped in for this, well, I can't say specifically this dog, but a dog for the sheriff's office.
Yes, ma'am.
And it would mean a lot to me and the Treasurers Association that we know that our dog got to go here, that gets to go there with her to the school. So anyways, putting in my 2 cents. And I'll be really mad and there might not be enough money later. Kidding.
Thank you. Thank you, guys. Appreciate it.
Thank you. Thanks so much. All right, we're going to move on to the consideration of the ordinance change to amend for the utilities in the Water and Sewage Division. And basically what this is, just so everyone knows, we're putting language in here so when our water crosses boundaries, we can actually charge the royalties of the 50% in the great deal we made. So we have to have that line provision in there to do that. So this would be a first reading, and any questions for that, I think Deb's here, she could answer them.
Seems pretty straightforward.
Yes.
Okay, in the spirit of moving things along and hogging up all the motion making tonight, I will move to second reading ordinance number 10-22.
I'll support.
All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? All right, we're going to move on to the approval of resolution adopting the park policy, use policy. And I know that our attorneys have been working on this, and Deb, do you want to say anything? Does anybody have any questions about it?
Covers a lot of territory.
It does.
So, you know,
It's got a lot of stuff in it.
happy to answer any questions about it. I'm looking at it. I'm not the person who worked on it,
Right,
but
I know
read
that.
it.
But
And
we've been working on
it
this
is-
a little bit, trying to get some...
And there's nothing extraordinary in here that you don't see in other parks, really.
So go ahead.
So-
Any questions?
High level, I guess, why is this a policy and not adjusting the parks chapter of the ordinance? It seems like there's some overlap and some things that could be added here or there that, I'm sorry if that's not,
No, I don't, well, we wouldn't need
it just surprised me, I guess. I first glance, I thought it was going to be one, and then I realized it was the other.
You can, I mean, you know, when you adopt the ordinance, it's either going to be a civil infraction or a misdemeanor if you break a rule, one of these rules. So, the consequence for breaking these is being ejected from the park, not being allowed to come back to the park, those types of things, as opposed to a fine or a prosecution.
And I actually
Okay.
like that better.
Makes sense.
Okay, so this is more viewed as the administrative implementation of the existing limits of the ordinance. Is that a fair way to look at it?
Yes. It also regulates the use of your facilities at the park. I mean, the rentals, the cleanup, that sort of thing, too.
Okay,
I
so,
think you may have, for certain things that are damaging the property, that sort of thing, those are criminal offenses that are already handled in different ordinances that you would want to be dealt with in that fashion.
yeah, that's fine. I'm okay with it. I just wanted to clarify what the reasoning or difference was.
The difference, yes.
No objection to it. One other thing that kind of stuck out to me, though, is the policy is stating the two parks, including the 11 Mile and Milford Road Park. And while hopefully we get to that point, does it make sense to have that in there now when someone, unless we're saying, I mean, can people go and apply for a permit to use that land currently? Because if not, right, I know that's, I guess that's my point, is it seems like it might be more appropriate to take that out and add it in when we actually open that park, so that we don't potentially mislead people to thinking that they could use it.
Can't they use it?
There's nothing
Or-
there, you can always go
I
on
mean, you
it.
could
I mean, if
go
we're
walk
okay
your
with
dog.
people using it, if that's the,
It's our,
then-
it's park property.
It's public
Right.
property, that's not right.
Weed baseball.
Right.
yes.
I mean, there's really no amenity to use, but you could go hiking through there or walk your dog or...
Okay.
If you want to regulate it so that people aren't in there after 10 p.m.
Sure, that's
you know,
okay.
you would want to include it.
Yeah.
No, I think it's a good idea.
All right. That resolves that then. I think my only other thing was about the not submitting a request for a reservation more than, I want to say it was 8 weeks in advance. I can't find the page right now. And I understand we don't want people to be going like a year out or something, like too far out, but if you're trying to plan an event, like there's exemptions in here for township-sponsored events, so things like Kite Fest, but we host a lot of other events like the Operation Injured Soldier Ride or things like that, and I just feel like 8 weeks might be a little short for letting them really have assurances that they've been planned. And so unless the intent is that we would be granting some sort of waiver for those, I'm thinking we bump that a little longer on the front end of accepting permit applications.
Go along with what Robert said, I mean, I know the Spark Plugs always have their,
Yeah, that
their
one
activity, their car show and their swap meet, and then they have their, what's it, the Southland Radio, like CB radio event. I forgot what the name of their
Yeah, they don't,
Yeah, I don't think they're doing.
they haven't done that in a long time.
It's just still.
Well,
the
they did it
spark
like 2 or 3
plugs.
years ago.
Spark plugs, Kite Fest, injured soldiers.
So if you're somebody who's had, like Robert mentioned, something that's been an annual event, you're going to want to make sure that you lock that into place. Is there a way that
Already
we...
on our calendar all the time.
But according to the policy, they can't reserve it.
And then if I, happen to submit my request just before they do, the policy says I should get first dibs.
Gotcha.
This is basically a guideline, though. I mean, for the reoccurring things that we know they're having, we're not going to hold them to 8 weeks. I mean, it's more of a guideline, You have to put something in there.
Right.
so-
I'm just trying to find like some like a wiggle room factor.
And I think there is one in there. I mean, it's all done by administrative review and, right?
Yeah, it's a
Yeah.
special event on top of it. So.
Right. Goes through the special event process. And
So this does not cover the existing special event permit? I guess that's what I'm trying to figure, maybe is the scope of, is this intended to be just for the, I want to rent the pavilion and not the, I'm holding a big event?
Mhm. Yeah, that has to
Because
come
if
for
that's,
special events.
so this does not replace that?
I wouldn't think so.
Okay.
Because that is definitely a special
Because
event for the park.
those were the ones that were my concern. I don't have an issue with 8 weeks for somebody who wants to use the pavilion.
Graduation party or
Right.
something, okay.
So if those are, if we agree that the interpretation is that those are a separate process, then,
Mhm.
okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
All right, John, are you?
No, I
Okay.
think you should make this one.
Actually, I have a question for Patty.
Yes.
There was an event quite a few years ago, and I can't remember which one it was, that had a beer tent. Was it?
Oh, yeah, that was the, the International Festival.
The ethnic festival.
So
Ethnic
then that
or
would-
International Festival,
Then that would fall under the township-sponsored events.
Or especially.
or special
So
event.
can we just say, instead of, what is this item, item V on page 6, where it says township-sponsored events, can we say township-sponsored / special events? So that a special event that's not a township-sponsored event could still apply for that, which would then encapsulate the Operation Injured Soldier or any of the other larger, like, annual events.
Maybe something like special events and uses approved by the board are excluded from compliance with this policy?
But is it the whole policy or just
No.
the reservation portion that you're worried about? Because this excludes us from the whole policy.
Right.
True.
So you'd have to add language beyond just an exclusion of the policy. You'd have to say with, as it pertains to, are you talking about scheduling in particular?
I'm talking about scheduling and alcohol.
Well,
That's
Right.
definitely under a special event.
If you just added the word special before events in V, it,
But I think Patty's right, or it was Michelle who's right. I don't want to exclude those special events from the entirety of the policy.
If we're approving a special event, though, and they still have to stay within the ordinance bounds,
You could
is
put
there anything
maybe
we're really worried
excluded
about?
from this.
Oh, maybe.
because those come to the board anyway for approval.
Well, don't they come to you guys for
They come to the admin.
They already have their own cleanup bond, and
I mean,
they have to abide by
see all the little-
parking and bathrooms and.
Thing.
So whatever seems to work with your approval process that happens at the township, in the township offices, just so that there's an opportunity for, like Robert said, if there's an annual event that's not a township-sponsored event, and if there's an event that wanted to have an alcohol, because they have to apply for that, right?
Yeah.
The liquor.
They have to apply through the Liquor Control Commission too.
How about if V becomes township-sponsored uses and special events may be granted exemptions from this policy? Does that sound okay, Debbie, or?
Yeah, I think so. I think that
Does that-
gives you
Michelle,
a
Patty,
lot
is
of
that-
latitude there.
does that sound nice?
Yeah,
Okay, all right, so.
that's good.
In
Yeah.
that case, unless anybody has anything else.
Just one more amendment, just that the date be changed to the 6th.
Yeah, I already got that on there. So it was the 5th.
Okay.
Go for it, Robert.
Then I will make a motion to approve Resolution 2022-24, adopting the park reservation use policy with the change of item V to read, township-sponsored uses and special events may be granted exemptions from compliance with this policy.
I'll support.
And the date change?
Oh, yes, and the date change. Sorry, thank
I
you.
will still support.
Okay.
Need one.
All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? All right. Going on. Consideration to approve the 2023 tax rate request.
Okay, you see this every single year in September. It has to be presented to the County Board of Commissioners before September 30th. So this is our tentative millage rates that we're limited to roll. I cannot add the library nor the fire department until they actually, if they pass either or both, none. I will amend this and bring it back to you, but I have to have this to the Board of Commissioners. So I need this approved, and then we'll hold our public hearing when we hold our budget hearing.
I was just going to ask you,
Yes.
so we'll have the truth and taxation hearing?
Truth and budgeting, because
okay.
we're going to do it with our budget. Truth
Okay.
and tax, yes, it's truth and
Instead of-
budgeting, yes,
okay.
because we're going to do it at the same time. So, yes, and then I will amend that if the millages get passed, because that will amend my tax collecting, so if I could just
Okay.
have this, so I can get Michelle and John to sign it, and I'll send it off to Shannon tomorrow. She's already sent me, she's sending all the treasurers don't forget, I have to have this, and I said, it's on our board meeting tonight, so.
Does everyone understand?
So we still got rolled back by Headley, so.
I'll make a motion.
Sure, why not? Make a motion to authorize the signing and submission of the L4029 millage rates for the 2023 taxes.
Go ahead.
No, you should.
I'll support.
All right, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? All right, we're going to move on. Consideration proposal to vacate a portion of Coyote Court private road easement. I know that, Brian, you've been working on this, and it seems to make a lot of sense, so you want to explain this a little bit?
I will. And the owner, Charles Mockridge, is here this evening as well, so we can ask him questions or he can clarify anything that I get wrong. But the proposal this evening, and you don't get many of these, but to vacate easements on private property, the township board has to approve that vacation. And so the property that we're talking about here is at the corner of, or at the bend from Lee Road to Coyote Court. This is South Hill Road. At the northern portion of your screen here is the Walbridge industrial property, and then this is Coyote Golf Course. In your packet you have a survey illustrating the existing easement that is on the end of Lee Drive that encompasses a portion of 2 parcels, and the request is to vacate the portion of the easement that does not provide access for Lee Drive or Coyote Court. And one of the things that we have been talking about a lot lately is any of the proposals that have come to the township for Coyote Golf Course to be redeveloped that would actually feasibly have any interest in utilizing this access easement have not proposed to connect to it. They've not proposed any driveways or roadways within those developments that would connect to it. Quite honestly, I can't see from a planning perspective why we would want to encourage traffic to go from the Coyote development out to South Hill through Lee Road. So from my perspective, I see no interest in keeping this access easement. And the reason that it's important for Mr. Mockridge and potentially the property owner to the south is that all of our setbacks are measured off of this easement on a property, and so by having 30 feet of the southern portion of this parcel dedicated to an easement, that limits where you can put accessory buildings or just in general develop on this property. So that's where we're at this evening. In your packet, you have permission from Mr. Mockridge, who is the parcel 1 on your screen today. We do not currently have, unless you have news for me, permission formally to vacate the southern 30 feet of this easement. So what we'd be asking the township board to do this evening is one of 2 things. It would be to vacate just the portion that's on Mr. Mockridge's property, And the survey can be updated to illustrate that, and we can check that administratively. Or you would have the option to vacate the whole thing upon the condition that we receive approval from the property owner to the south. So that's kind of where we sit today. I can take any questions you might have, or if you'd like to hear from the owner, he is here as well.
Okay. Well, just my thoughts. I'm not even sure why. I mean, I know why it was put there originally, but it makes no sense now. It makes no sense to encumber that property with an easement that's never going to be used. So in my opinion, I think that we should vacate the entire thing and wait for, I mean, why would he not come in? I mean, he would get used to that property, and, you know, my opinion, this is a no-brainer. I think we should just vacate that.
If the other property owner doesn't respond to vacating that portion, does that hold our applicant up for vacating?
Not if we make it clear tonight.
Yeah,
That he
just
can
make it
vacate
clear.
just his half.
So can we do a hybrid thing where, or can we say like, you know, the other, within a certain time period for the other property owner to agree, and if they don't, then we only vacate the northern portion? Does that?
Do you have any problem with that?
It's fine.
I mean, I don't want to leave the southern portion, but I also don't want to make it so that we can't use anything until someone else agrees.
But I don't think, he can use it if we go ahead and vacate it, right?
Who could use it?
He could use that piece right away if we vacate it tonight, and we don't have to wait for someone to come in and sign off on the other piece.
The only step that we've talked about is the actual legal description would have to be updated to just show his 30 feet instead of the full 60.
Have you talked to the gentleman that has that other side of the easement? Have you talked to him? Does he want to vacate it, or doesn't even know it's there?
Charles Mockridge, 28415 Coyote Court, New Hudson. And also, thank you, Brian. You've been tremendously helpful. I just wanted to make that comment. I came into this process completely blind on how this works, and he's helped me along the way. I have spoken with them a number of times, and they own the horse farm. It's a horse farm on the southern side. And they are incredibly busy. And frankly, they haven't given me more than 5 to 10 minutes to walk through what this issue is. I can't think of any reason why they would want to keep the easement. I think abandoning it only benefits their interests as well. But unfortunately, I just can't get the 10 minutes of an audience with them to get their John Hancock. Yeah.
Well, maybe Robert's got a point. Is there anything that we can do to move him forward and just not worry about it? Worry about the other side?
Can I?
Go ahead.
Send a letter to them saying that we're considering.
Can we just vacate it, or do we have to have their permission? That's the question
In my
I have.
opinion, you don't need their permission.
Right.
You can vacate it, and once that resolution gets recorded that you vacated the easement, it's gone.
Yeah, I mean, it's our property, right? I mean, it's our easement, right? Township's easement?
It's an easement on their property,
So we're giving it up.
you know, they may not even know it's there.
That's what I
don't
think.
know.
I mean,
So-
there's no real usefulness to
No.
leaving that southern strip,
No.
right? So,
If they were to use it, they would probably need another 30 feet on their own property, so they would have to
Right, they'd have to come in.
come in and use it. I don't know.
And
Is
I
it
think
so
if-
wrong to just vacate the northern half? At least it gets you what you want.
The concern from my side, abandoning only the northern half, is I now have to cut another $1,000 check for a survey guy it took me almost a year to get him out there in the first place. And so I think having to go back to him now will delay the process and cost me undue, in my opinion, monies that I've already spent once.
would, say, 30 days of a delay cause you any?
No.
So how about, what if we were to say, we're going to vacate the whole thing if we don't get opposition from we notify the southern property owner, and if they don't object within 30 days, then we vacate the entirety. Does that work?
But I thought, Deb, you said we just vacate it
Or
as
we just
vacate
do
it.
it.
That's what John
If
said,
we're
just
allowed to
vacate the
just
whole
do it.
thing.
Just vacate it. Just do the whole thing.
I'm just doing it. That's my
Yeah,
opinion.
and here's the other thing, so we're gonna start incurring costs sending letters around.
Yeah,
We shouldn't be
exactly.
paying
Why
for
should we
it.
pay
The
anything?
applicant should pay for it, not
Just
us, and he
vacate the
doesn't
whole
wanna
thing.
pay for it. It's really unusable. If the guy to the south of you wanted to use it, he'd need to come up with 30 more feet and surveys, and another easement document anyway.
Just vacate.
And it's a lead drives a private road, so we can't just give other people access to a private road without all the other benefiting users signing off on it. So it's really a moot point, I think.
Yeah, I do too. Let's just make a motion to vacate.
Okay.
Somebody want to make that motion?
I will. I will make.
Sean, you beat me to it.
Well, please.
No,
by all
no,
means.
no, go ahead.
I will make a motion that we approve the request of Mr. Mockridge tonight and vacate the section of Lee Road that is described in survey sketch of easement B in our packet tonight, which is a 60-foot by approximately 323-foot easement.
I'll support.
Okay, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed?
Thank you very much.
Okay, thank you.
Thanks.
All right, we're going to move on to the removed item number 3 on the consent item, or consent agenda.
Yeah,
Yes?
it's real quick. I wasn't in attendance at the August 15th meeting, and it wasn't recorded, so I just didn't feel comfortable voting on the minutes. So I just wanted to abstain from that vote.
Okay.
That's all.
That was
I'm
real
like,
weird.
what did I miss? Okay, thank you.
Real weird, I don't know.
All right.
You know, it has
somebody-
come up, believe it or not, it's come up in my professional life. So,
Somebody
So
want to
I'll
make?
make a motion to approve the Township Board minutes, August 15, 2022, as submitted.
I'll
With-
support.
Can we add that just Chris wasn't there? I just want to make sure the record shows
Yeah,
that
it does.
he wasn't at that meeting. This is Nick.
Yeah, I think that's really
Okay.
important.
Okay. Did we have a second?
I'll support.
Lisa. Good.
Okay, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Abstain. Okay. All right, well, that concludes the business of the township. Anyone have anything else you'd like to add before we adjourn?
Nice job tonight.
Thank you.
All right, I'm going to adjourn the meeting.
See, you can come into it today.